When I was in second or third grade, one rainy evening became unforgettable. My parents, David and Laura Miller, had picked me up from school but soon left for a formal dinner event. They promised they'd be back, but a sudden storm forced them to stay overnight at a friend's place nearby. They called me from the house phone several times, apologizing for leaving me alone. I remember my mom giving me a little checklist: lock the doors and windows, keep one light on, and close all the blinds. To me, it felt more like a game than a responsibility. Unlimited candy, TV on the couch, being alone almost felt exciting. But when I woke up in the middle of the night, the house felt colder than it should have. The TV had gone into sleep mode. The storm outside was louder than ever, and suddenly, every creak in the house seemed amplified. I forced myself to go through the list my mom had given me. Everything was locked, blinds were shut, lights were on. Still, the air felt heavy, unsettled. Later, as lightning lit up my bedroom, I noticed something strange. The closet door, which I was certain had been shut, now stood slightly ajar. I didn't scream, didn't call out. I simply walked out of the room, step by step, and hid under the dining table downstairs, my small heart pounding with questions I couldn't answer. Eventually, I must have drifted off there, shaken but safe. In the morning, everything looked ordinary again, yet that night left me with a lifelong reminder. Sometimes it's not the storm outside that unsettles you, but the silence inside the house. At 15, I often struggled with sleep. On one rainy Saturday night in Maplewood, Oregon, I realized I wasn't going to fall asleep, no matter how hard I tried. My parents always told me walking in the rain might help, so I slipped on a jacket and wandered toward Riverside Park. The park was quiet, the glow of the street lamps reflecting off wet pavement. For 20 minutes, I walked peacefully until I noticed something unusual on the road, a figure lying face down. My first thought was that he might be injured, maybe hit by a car. Against my instincts, I approached, because that's how I'd been raised, to check, to help. But then something unexpected happened. The figure moved. Slowly, he sat upright in the rain and looked directly at me. My chest tightened. I couldn't tell if he was hurt or simply strange. For a moment, I froze in place, unsure whether to run, call for help, or wait for him to speak. Then he stood up, just like that. No words, no explanation, only the eerie sound of rain filling the silence between us. I didn't wait around. I turned and hurried back into the park, heart racing, not daring to glance over my shoulder. That night taught me something I've never forgotten. Sometimes the most unsettling moments aren't about danger itself, but about not knowing another person's intentions. At 29, I found that nothing clears my mind like camping deep in the wilderness. No campgrounds, no crowds, just the solitude of Northern California's backcountry. A few months ago, after a breakup, I packed my truck and headed out to a quiet river bend I'd discovered once before. When I arrived, I noticed 2 trucks already parked at the trailhead. Not ideal, since I came for solitude. Still, I told myself the river was long enough for everyone. As I hiked down, I passed 2 men fishing. They looked rugged, friendly enough, but one of them quickly covered something with his jacket and muttered something about just target shooting cans. His tone struck me as oddly forced, but I let it go. Later, at my secluded spot, I set up camp and let the drizzle blend with the river's rush. Hours passed quietly until I wandered to the rocks by the water. Across the river stood one of the men I'd passed earlier. He waved. I waved back. He shouted across, asking my name. Without much thought, I told him, "Daniel." He paused, then lifted what looked like a disposable camera and snapped a picture of me from across the river. My stomach dropped. Why would a stranger take my picture? There was no threat, no words exchanged beyond that, but the gesture alone was enough to shift the air around me. That night, I sat by my tent, the sound of the river masking my thoughts. He never came closer, never crossed the river, but even now, I think back to that moment. Not everything unsettling comes in the form of violence or chaos. Sometimes it's simply the realization that you've been noticed in a way you never asked to be.